So Amazon did a thing, and I'm going to talk about it because I have some things to say about this thing. But first and foremost, I'd like to say hello, Stig. How you doing down there?
I'm doing quite well. Technically, I'm up there though, because Norway. But yeah,
Well,
yeah.
on the
Amazon did
screen,
a thing.
yeah.
Amazon did a thing. I casually watched this intro, so I need to watch it again.
Okay.
You know.
And we are about to do that. We are not going to put because I'm learning. I'm a slow learner, but I am learning. And whoever it is out there that's manually reporting me, I see you, but I'm going to be clicking pause and there's going to be no sound and this is official promotional material. So, I have checked all of the fair use boxes and there is no sound. So, just saying. I'm just saying. All right, guys, really quick, if you don't know, which I'm not sure how you wouldn't, Amazon dropped this thing. We're going to watch this thing, and it's supposed to get you hyped for their bastardization. I mean, their adaptation of Lord of the Rings before Lord of the Rings. All right, so what does this look like to you, Stig? Like
A valley.
yeah, maybe like a river with some mist going on.
The Elder Scrolls 6.
Elder Scroll.
Being
That I would, yeah, I'm. I would say so. You know, I'm thinking. I was like, okay, I think it's like a mountain, like a ravine or something like that. Like, okay, clearly we're going through some mountainscapes. We've got the smoke machine now. Oh, we've got molten lava. No, that's not
it's gold.
lava.
It's
That's
gold.
gold. Okay, that's gold right there. This is gold. This looks okay. Does this not look like sand over here? Like this looks like sand, and this looks like somebody started a brush fire in the middle of the desert. Am I wrong?
Um, I'm not sure what it looks like, but you know what? This is where they failed to do representation because
Oh,
this is gold.
ah,
Go if they put the gold in them their hills instead of
oh.
on that wooden bit, then you would have covered pronouns, wouldn't you? Them there. You
Well,
could have
them their
been
hills. But
inclusive.
these aren't them their hills. You're right.
Yeah, they missed
This
the
is
chance
them.
to virtue signal.
This is a cast. All right, guys. So I want like keep in mind this is
Well,
supposed to be gold. CGI is not looking all that great. I'm just gonna say, like, man, this
look at the way it curves, though.
look at
I,
this
I
is
was assuming this was where they forged the ring, but
right.
it isn't.
It's not this. They're not forging a ring. Like, oh, look at that. Okay, and look here where okay. I thought that
The,
this was mercury.
yeah,
Like,
this water does not look like water.
no,
It
like
doesn't. To be fair,
what
CGI water almost never looks good.
CGI water never does look good. So, and now we've got like the smoke. So, like, I thought we were back at like the mountains again because they tried they're trying to give that mountainous ring ominous. They're going for heavy on the mist and heavy on the mystery. So they definitely like somebody had a smoke machine. All right, guys.
Yeah,
So that is the 1 minute teaser for the new show, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
yeah, and I get
Steve,
what they were trying to do, and on the surface, it's not a bad idea. Having the
uh-huh.
forging of the ring in the intro in the teaser,
Yep.
nothing wrong with that. It was just it looked like the intro to a video game.
I've heard
Looked
that.
like PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I could
You
I
know,
could definitely see that. You want to hear something really sad and depressing?
it is a video game.
That is not CGI. That was
What?
practical. That was actually they were actually slow motion capturing that pour. Like that
Really?
was real. That
Then
was
I stand
practical.
corrected. I thought it looked like shit CGI.
Yeah, no, it did, and that's what's terrifying because it's not. It was practical. The editing and the shooting made it look like CGI. And while we're paused, hello there, John F. Trent. How are you doing from Bounding into Comics? We're
Hey,
looking at
how's
one
it
of your
going?
articles.
I see
Hi.
that. Hey, Stig, how's it going?
Oh, those
Chat.
I use you in depth all the time, and I do not apologize.
Appreciate that.
So this is not technically a teaser trailer. This is a title announcement, but it's supposed to give you an idea of what we can expect going forward from Amazon in regards to Lord of the Rings, right? This is what's supposed to draw you in. Like this is they had a specific aesthetic that they were going for when they did this. I mean, that's real wood back there. This is real wood. This is real steam. They smelted this gold. Like, do you know how expensive that is? Like, this is legitimate gold.
I think it's silver in the press release. I think they said, but yeah,
gold?
same point.
Okay. Sorry, I just breezed through the press release and went like, we're going to get to all of that. By the way, guys, there's press release, there's behind the scene footage, there's all that jazz. We're going to get to it in a minute. But we're really just going to stop here. And Stig, if I had not told you that that is not a CGI title, would you know that that is not a CGI title? This is a legit, no kidding, like this is real wood. These are real cast, this is a real cast of actual precious metals letters. I'm sorry, like, here's the thing. And I've said this, I do nostalgia streams. I've said this many times before. That like
I'll just I mean, it looks like Stig's got himself muted, so sorry to interrupt, but
no, go.
I mean, to me, it's all Game of Thrones. Like everyone has these opening scenes that are supposed to be like Game of Thrones now. Wheel of Time tried to do it with like the weaving, and we saw what Amazon did with that. And so this is just their version of that Game of Thrones opening sequence. Like I said, that title sequence, and the only thing that's missing is you just don't have the names of the actors or the showrunner or anything like that in this video. But that's what this was to me. This was a title sequence in the vein of Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. And so since we have jumped to that, I am going to show you, not that, I mean, we've all seen the fonts and so I want you guys to be honest with yourselves about something when I show you these next couple of picks that I'm going to bring up. And I want you guys to tell me, honestly, which aesthetic do you think Amazon was trying to go for more of? Like which font is that? So we have this, we've got Rings of Power. Here is the Game of Thrones like font, like super famous font and everything like that. Here's the other one if you have like the DVDs. So here's the other one. Okay, so this is Game of Thrones. Now, here is the original Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Look at that aesthetic. When you see that, like, that is Lord of the Rings font. That's Peter Jackson's adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. When you look at this, you're like, yes, this font is iconic. And like Game of Thrones could only hope. Look at how close they tried to get, and then they tried to like add their own thing. They like modernized it, thinned it out, made it all shiny. So look at these two fonts, and then you tell me who they're trying to be more like.
Game of Thrones.
They're trying to be Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. Okay, I need to say this. This has been repeated by many. I'm going to say it again. Game of Thrones would not exist without Lord of the Rings. I have no idea why Bezos would even utter the phrase that he wants his Game of Thrones. Because what he should be saying is, I want Lord of the Rings so that everybody wants to be like us. Because 1, Game of Thrones crashed and burned. 2, as I've already stated, Game of Thrones would not exist without Lord of the Rings. That as much was admitted by the author of Game of Thrones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it would
George
not
Martin
exist.
has said it. Tolkien was a major influence.
So we would not have any of that. There would be no Game of Thrones. There would be no likely Wheel of Time without Lord of the Rings. So explain to me, Amazon, why you are taking your budget, your $450 million budget, and trying to make it look like a series that failed. Not only failed, but failed so epically and crashed and burned so badly that anytime you say it's the Game of Thrones treatment, people who've never even seen the show, like myself, know what you're talking about. That is how bad that show crashed and burned. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll push back on that a little bit, because I do think that aside from seasons 7 and 8, when they ran out of Martin's source material, I thought the show, for the most part, followed the books pretty well. Obviously, they cut out. I think they shouldn't have cut out the stuff that they should have. They did. I think they could have had that with the Catelyn Stark stuff and everything like that. But that first season follows the books. Follows that first book. I mean, to a T. It's extremely similar. I watched the first season first, and then I went and read the book, which I usually don't do. I usually read the books first, and then I'll like, oh, let's look at the adaptation. But so when I hear Game of Thrones treatment, to me, it's not that it's they butchered the ending. It's more of the fact that it has shock moments to like you have the red wedding scene, or characters being brutally tortured in like the most horrific ways, characters that are so heinous that you hate, like you absolutely find them like repellent. That's what I think of when I think of Game of Thrones. Just there's no real hero. All the characters are terrible. There's no all the morality of the show is just depravity. There is no morality. I don't think there's one character that is like a strong moral character that does the right thing.
There's one, but they changed him on the show.
Okay.
It's actually Stannis.
Yes. I think there's an argument with Stannis.
Yeah, because the Game of Thrones is basically the books. It's basically the War of the Roses mixed with the Ragnarok mythology. And Stannis is based on Forseti, the god of justice.
Yes, I think that's a good argument. But that's what I think of when I think of Game of Thrones. Just like depravity.
Yeah.
No real moral characters. Just things done to shock you for shock's sake.
That's what happened after the Red Wedding. It's like they got high on their reaction videos, because in my opinion, after season 4, that's when they ditch the books, and that's when they ditched George Martin as well. He left the production, basically. They told him they didn't need him anymore. Well, but after that, it was just killing off character just for the shock value. There was one every third episode or something. Someone just dying willy-nilly. I mean, Sir Barristan was still alive in the books, in book 5, about to defend the city of Meereen. And they just killed him in an alley. Like, in what?
Well, if they kill anybody in Lord of the Rings in the alley, I don't know, like I'll riot or something. So this is the actual piece that was created. This is what what we saw was practical. This is the finished product right here. This is on courtesy of John. Thank you, John. This is the finished product right here. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Yes, that's Bezos. Sorry. That's not John F. Trent standing behind that. No, just kidding.
Just a question.
I don't look like Lex Luthor.
Is this show supposed to be about the forging of the rings and all that? Because if it looks like they're going to skip. Doesn't the rings get forged way before Isildur is even born?
So this is supposed to take place 1,000 years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, so here's the I'll just read the. Can I just read the press release? I can just, or are you going to bring it up?
Well, here I'll bring it up, and you can narrate.
Okay.
Or do you want me to bring up your article?
In
it's fine.
Christopher Lee's voice, please.
Oh, I'm not. I don't do impressions. So I think if you just go down, it's right there. This is a title that we imagine could live on the spine of a book next to J.R. Tolkien's other classics. The Rings of Power unites all the major stories of Middle-earth's Second Age: the Forging of the Rings, the Rise of the Dark Lord Sauron, the epic tale of Numenor, and the last alliance of elves and men. Until now, audiences have only seen on screen the story of the One Ring, but before there was one, there were many, and we're excited to share the epic story of them all. So that's from the showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. That's what they said.
Yes,
the show is about.
This is the official press
release. It specifically says the Forging of the Rings.
Yes, and so I'm not entirely sure how this is gonna play out, honestly, because by the way, guys, there's plenty of rumors, there's plenty of conjecture. Like if you go to Twitter, there's like 16 different accounts that are Lord of the Ring fan accounts or Lord of the Ring specific accounts that are scoopers and, have rumors and all of this other stuff. From everything that we've gathered, obviously this is going to be about the Forging of the Ring. John, you and I sort of talked offline. This is really interesting that they're going to go right in with the last alliance of elves and men. And
yeah, so like they're talking about doing Second Age, but to me, it sounds like they're going to do what Witcher did in season 1, which I think turned a lot of people off, jumping around timeline. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. If you're promoting your first season of your show and you've got your like Forging of the Rings, Dark Lord, Rise of Sauron, epic tale of Numenor, and then the last alliance. I mean, there's so much stuff that happened in between all of that stuff.
Yes,
so, I mean,
that is. Yes,
you're gonna push that. Like you're talking like 10 seasons. If you're telling that in a linear fashion, otherwise you are doing Witcher and kind of jumping around different timelines and confusing people. I think that's fair to say that Witcher season 1 definitely confused people with the way it told its story in a non-linear fashion.
Maybe it would have been better if they actually just did 2 shows, one set further back and one, current with the Alliance of Elves and Men and all that.
Yeah, I actually think that makes more sense. I mean, that last alliance of elves and men, I think, is just the material is so ripe for storytelling. I mean, Tolkien's writing is just absolutely fantastic when it comes to all of that stuff. If you've gone and
not
read
that Amazon is actually, it's not that Amazon's actually interested in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, and I am gonna get more specific into that as well in a little bit. But
do you know what's missing?
I would disagree. So I actually really liked the first season of The Witcher and the way that it handled the timelines. It meant you had to stay engaged, and it meant you had to actually it didn't treat you like you were a kid. It was.
Did you know anything? Did you know about it going in though?
Did I know about the time, the way that it was going to be cut up?
You knew the story.
Oh, yes,
you knew. I've read. I think it's confusing for people who had no idea about The Witcher before.
Yeah,
probably that is probably true, but I appreciated the fact that we were given. It felt like we were finally given a fantasy series that wasn't treating us like we were kids, essentially. Like we didn't have any baby gloves. It was literally like you went right in and you had to pay attention and you had to stay engaged and you had to stay focused. And so I don't know how they're planning on handling the sequence of events here in the Lord of the Rings adaptation, but I do know that when you see this and where it's the Rings of Power unites all the major stories of Middle-earth Second Age. I mean, John already said it. Like, this is a lot of stuff, but there's a lot that happens in between that. There's a lot going on. It's the whole Second Age, and
what Steed was saying, I mean, you could make 4 different shows on what they've got there, like, because the rise of Sauron isn't just his rise, because he falls and then he rises again within Numenor. So there's a rise, a fall, and a rise again, and so I mean, Numenor is its own story. Obviously, it leads into the last alliance of elves and men, because you have the characters from there that did not succumb to Sauron's wiles when he corrupts, what's his name, Ar-Pharazôn is the leader of Numenor, I believe.
Ar-Pharazôn, yes. So
and then they obviously form that alliance with the elves to fight Sauron. And
yeah, there's a heck of a lot of cool stuff they can do with Glorfindel.
Yeah,
because he actually foreshadows Gandalf returning in the Lord of the Rings, kind of, because the same thing happens to him. He gets sent back anyway. But
well, if they stick hobbits in the Second Age, it's not going to be a good time. But somebody said, they were like, "What if
that's
they're
confirmed?"
I know. I just,
you know what's missing though from this whole production, I guess. Remember back when they announced the Fellowship of the Ring being turned into a movie?
Yeah.
I could not stay away from I think it was the OneRing.net, looking for any kinds of updates every day, even if it was just a little production picture, right? I was on there all the time. All my friends were. Now it's like, I don't see anyone caring that much. It's like there's something vital that's gone, but it was there for Peter Jackson, right? Some kind of,
because people are desperate, because people are skeptic. Like, look at what they did with Wheel of Time. We're not gonna, like, this is not gonna turn into a Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones or any other, like, even though I desperately want to, and we'll make some comparisons.
Yeah, but you need to keep in mind that there's no end to the Wheel of Time. So we would be here forever. It just keeps turning.
Yes, it keeps turning.
And legends turn to myth.
And myth to legend. Like, here's the thing. When Amazon, it can't be denied. I love Wheel of Time. I do. It can't be denied, though, that obviously Lord of the Rings has a way bigger fan base following and, like, just general knowledge. Like, people know Lord of the Rings much more so than they do, like, Wheel of Time. Lots of people, when they heard Wheel of Time, what?
This is because Tolkien took his time to make lore.
Yes.
Lore enhances a fantasy story greatly. If you have all the stuff around, all the history, all the maps. I mean, the maps for the Lord of the Rings are amazing.
Yes.
It just makes it makes
family trees.
It makes it a work rather than a story.
Exactly. He built it out. So you've got the Lord of the Rings. So the Wheel of Time, as much as I love that story and enjoy, like, the books are just fantastic, guys. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that Amazon was like, okay, we're going to take the title, the characters' names, and then we're going to kind of, like, do our own thing. Because, like, they just, like, they went off into the left.
Exactly what they it's exactly what was done with the Sword of Truth series.
Yes.
And the Shannara one. Exactly the same. They just took the names and basically the fans that came with it, and then just made whatever.
Oh, Star Wars. Sounds like Star Wars too.
Yeah, that as well.
Like, it's we've run into this thing where and I said this so I made a John, by the way, JB's article over the rumor that Henry Cavill is getting
I saw that,
or whatever. Yeah, I did a video on that too, and I'm like, I borrow your guys' stuff all the time, and I shout you out as much as I possibly can, because you, right? I know
what's going on with Cavill.
It's rumored that he's in talks, to return it to the Cape, but he wants a bigger salary.
Oh, for Superman.
Yeah, but
I thought it was going to be in this one. My bad.
Well, so I digress from that, but I said it in that video, and I will say it here. If you're gonna invest in something, invest in that thing. Like, people, Lord of the Rings has fans for what it is, not for what it is not. Okay? All of the headcanon and all of the fan fiction and all of the fan art in the world is not going to change the core works of Tolkien. It's not going to change what people love about Lord of the Rings, why it has been translated into over what, like 27 languages or something like that, 30 languages. The only book that outsells it, I believe, is the Bible. As a whole series, the only thing that outsells it is the Bible. Yeah. That's insane. You have a global audience already. You do not have to manufacture one when it comes to Lord of the Rings. So don't do that.
Lord of the Rings is kind of, it's not even just a book, it's a phenomenon.
Yes. So just let it be as it is. The fan base, the love, the care, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the draw of Lord of the Rings is the Lord of the Rings. It is the stories. It is the in-depth characters, the beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous settings. Like you can, like, it jumps out of Tolkien's pages. Even if we didn't have Peter Jackson's films or the animated films or anything like that, there is other visual art out there. But what makes the Lord of the Rings so powerful is because it spoke to so many people from so many different corners of the globe, just as it is. When you start to screw with that formula is when you're going to lose, because Tolkien figured it out. Tolkien spoke to people's souls and it worked. And this right here actually kind of angers and frustrates me, because this is like he wanted his piece. He wanted his bit, his thing. Like, this is mine now. I'm going to hang it on my wall as a trophy. And you know what? They own the rights to it. By all means, like, he can do what he wants. But the fact that you had somebody literally create this was practically done. There was somebody who can smelt metal, which is not easy, whether it's silver or gold. Like, the technical ability that is required is insane. So you had someone create this. The fact that you think that this and that this, the fact that you think that this is worthy of Tolkien's legacy and that you have done something grand, or you've done a favor to us as fans or as paying customers by giving us an actual smelting of metal and then made it look CGI, truly baffles the mind. Like, I am blown away at the fact that this is not CGI. This is not CGI. This is actual slow motion. And that water,
they made practical effects look like CGI. That doesn't happen often.
No, that is terrible. Like, this looks like terrible CGI. I don't care. Like, if I had not, God bless you, John. Like, if you and a couple other people had not sent to me the press release, and like, there's behind the scenes footage too. I would have thought this whole thing was.
We have some pictures
CGI.
in our article.
Yes, you do.
They have like a robot. There's like a robot or something.
Yep. Right here. So this is what's happening. Though? You've got him. So you have an actual metalsmith. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have someone who has the skill, who has the technical ability to do this. They are pouring this out for you. And you've got the camp. Like, look at the effort that went into it. This picture looks better than your entire trailer title announcement. That is just sad.
It also looks like they did the letters one by one, because you can see there's no I there. It's only the R. There. Yeah, the I hasn't been cut out yet.
So this took. So that means you had to have
the I shows up in the Lord of the Ring.
Your dry wit always kills me, Stieg. I love it. But it is true. It does show up in Lord of the Rings. But so you had to have somebody with woodworking skills. You had to have somebody who carved that out. You had to have somebody with that metalsmithing ability. And that's like the fact that someone had to pour that and had to be that steady. because you had someone with a slow motion like they had there was no room for error in this pour, because you're literally following an actual smelting, like an actual pour of molten precious metal. It's not like he couldn't have, you had to have someone truly masterful do this, and you made their work look fake. You made it look CGI. This is why I thought it was gold, because I thought this was gold that, like, it was cooling off, like the flex here made me think that it was gold. So it makes sense that it was silver.
The press release says something about there's like Elvish script, but I never saw that. I don't, so.
I think what they're talking about is like right when you get to the spine right there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like, yeah.
Oh, that's what they're talking about? Okay.
That's the best that I can come up with, but
because the press release says the bespoke title treatment appears crafted in a silvery metal with lines of Elvish script inscribed along the crest of each letter form.
Oh, it's only on the O.
Well, maybe. Hold on. Let's see.
I don't know.
Come back, Bezos. Like, let's see your Lex Luthor looking head.
So
okay. I'm not gonna be able to get it any bigger. I do not see any Elvish script.
I'm wondering if there is Elvish script and it like gives hints about what I would not put that past them. Like hints about what's happening in the show.
And I'm sure they think that they're very clever.
Yeah.
But like this to me feels like they are treating Lord of the Rings like a piece of meat. Like it's something to be a trophy, something to be hung on a wall, something to be, shown off to their friends at parties. Not like what Az and Robert do on their Hot Toy stream, or what collectors do when they're showing something that they're passionate about and they love and they want to share it with you because they love it. This feels like, this is mine now. I'm going to take it.
This is an ego thing and not a love thing.
Yes. This is not a passion thing. This is not a love thing. This is, I wanted my Game of Thrones and now I have it. This is mine. Lord of the Rings is mine. And I am now going to be associated with Lord of the Rings and not J.R.R. Tolkien. This man is kidding himself if he thinks that that's true. And yes, I'm inferring a lot of that, but that's what this piece is telling me. That is what I am getting. That is exactly Shane Nolan. All that glitters is not gold. It is...
Exactly. Other things could be the guy's forehead.
This is...
I think there's a character that has a problem with greed in The Hobbit and in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I feel like there is. I feel like there's a couple, but one specifically.
He loses his hair too, right?
Yeah, he looks like this guy, or rather, this guy looks like that guy has eaten a little bit.
True. So I have another thing that I want to bring up, and it was actually, because literally my reaction was just purely to the trailer. I just kind of breezed through everything. Here's how you know it's not a passion project. And what date does this say? September 2nd, right? If you guys can't see. So if we go, here, I'm going to do that, and we'll shrink this back down really quick. This says the new age begins September 2nd, 2022, right? Why was this not September 22nd? Why would you not release, if this is truly a passion project and you want to speak to the Lord of the Rings fan base and you want to capture that global audience, how are you going to pass up September 22nd? It's only, it's 20 more days.
My memory.
Bilbo and Frodo's birthday.
Oh, yeah. I'm, my Tolkien passion days were 20 years ago. I have forgotten.
No, but it was right there. Literally, September 22nd, 2022. The only way it could have been more perfect if we were in 22, but I don't know that I want to live 200 more years for that kind of nonsense to come around. But it was right there. It was literally right there. September 22nd was right there.
So September 2nd. So hold on. September 2nd. Oh. Sorry. No, September 2nd is when Tolkien died, 1973.
Yes,
I looked
that
it,
I
I just
knew.
looked it up.
But
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's why.
Which is
Because
foreshadowing.
September 2nd.
so they're killing Tolkien twice.
Yeah.
I could take that imagery. I can take that, because I would feel like you would either want it on the professor's birthday, or on Frodo and Bilbo's birthday, or I don't know, like any other day maybe besides.
Something more positive, you know?
Because to me,
Not the day
again,
he died.
you add the day that the professor died, and you add the day, and he's got this hunk on his. So like you're killing the professor twice. First, you're gonna
this
you're gonna
is gonna
strip his
get
corpse.
people are gonna make memes of that if the show is a flop.
Yeah.
If the show is a flop, I guess Amazon has come out and said that they're not going to produce any more original content or original shows because they've poured so much money into this Rings of Power.
Yeah.
I don't know how
you know
true
what
that
though?
is.
If it's good,
they've admitted it.
if it's good, it's good. You know.
If it's
We've
good,
had
it's good.
actors-
But go ahead.
We've had actors say that they have people that are going around and like making sure the dust is in the right spot on the scenes. The head of Amazon Studios, I think her name is Jennifer Chalky. I think that is her name. She didn't admit how much they spent, but she admit that they spent a ton of money. So
Yeah. So that,
she
by
said,
the way,
"I-
that
it was the most
Elvish,
expensive show."
you can see it right here. Like I don't know if that's CGI'd onto the letters, because it doesn't look like what Bezos was holding, but I don't know if you guys can tell. But especially if you look on the R, and like you can see the inscription. Now, the W almost made me cringe because that looks almost identical to something else. And
Westworld, maybe.
I don't no, think more recent and think
Wheel of Time.
Yep. So do you guys remember their Wheel of Time trailer? Hang on, let me gonna get nailed for copyright for humming. Okay. So I'm just gonna like bring up their the graphic for their
Yeah, you're right. It does look like the Wheel of Time one.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, guys, like there are multiple fonts in this world, and there's multiple fantasy fonts, and Lord of the Rings is the OG a fantasy font. You should have stuck with the traditional Lord of the Rings fantasy font. Like, I'm not trying, like, yes, we're being nitpicky, and yes, you know, but like, this is Lord of the Rings. It is the godfather of fantasy. Like, it breathed into creation these other IPs, essentially, because most of these authors have admitted that they have been influenced or inspired or flat out are paying homage.
Terry Brooks said it flat out. He said
Yeah.
it flat out. The Sword of
Flat-
Sanra was
Yeah.
way too close to the Lord of the Rings, and he admitted it, and he said he just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know,
And, like,
because there wasn't that much fantasy back then.
No, and there's so much that we owe to the Lord of the Rings. And so why would you try to strip it of its identity? Like why would you do that? Why would you try and make it something that it is not? Everything else has for so long tried to be Lord of the Rings. The Game of Thrones show was trying to be Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, but in TV form. Just because it's a different format does not mean that it is anywhere quite frankly. Like, if you're gonna tell me that, hey, you can have 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, or you can have these 3 films from Lord of the Rings, I'm gonna choose the Lord of the Rings trilogy every single time. And that's not just because I'm not a fan of Game of Thrones. It's because the Lord of the Rings trilogy is incredible. Like, it is so fantastic. Yes, it has its flaws. No, it is not a perfect adaptation, but oh my goodness, it is the best we've ever gotten.
We can thank Christopher Lee for a lot of that.
Yes, we can.
Because he threatened to walk a couple of times when Peter Jackson went off script.
Yes, when he tried to go off script, and he tried to put he tried to put
Arwen at the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah, he tried. Yeah, and then Christopher Lee was like, if you do that, you're gonna undermine Eowyn when we do it, when we move on to Return of the King. because that's her big, like, you're going to completely undermine that. Like, Tolkien knew what he was doing. Just trust the work, trust the author, trust what is there, trust the material. And when you did that, you ended up with the greatest trilogy of all time, Lord of the Rings. You can fight me on it if you want to. You're never going to win. And yes, I am.
Sorry.
I think the point you're making goes to, we just did a story today. Japanese editor of Manga Plus for Shueisha was basically said that they look at the popularity of their manga, of what people are reading on their manga, and in order to determine what they're going to adapt into anime. And if you watch any anime, usually it's pretty close, direct adaptations of the manga.
Yeah.
They don't really deviate a lot from
Absolutely
the source material.
Did you guys see the there was an interview with Peter Jackson and Christopher Lee, I believe, for The Hobbit, and Peter Jackson was, Christopher Lee is back and blah blah blah, and going to shoot some scenes for The Hobbit, and Christopher Lee just said, "I'm going to be in it this time, right?" Because Jackson had left him out of the Return of the King for the cinema version. He was having a dig at him for that even now.
Yeah. No, Christopher Lee, like, the more I learn about Sir Christopher Lee, like, that man could truly do anything. He was a bona fide badass for sure. And so I know that we were talking a little bit. I don't have direct access to it. I wish that I did. But our good friend Az over at Heel versus Babyface, he got a hold of, like, behind the scenes footage, like tape stuff. I have no idea how he got it. I'm really jealous.
For the Rings of Power?
Yeah. Did you send it to him? No, I'm just kidding.
Used to Palantir, probably.
Hang on. So Az is gonna make a cameo and he didn't even know it. I'll credit you down in the description, Az, I promise. But just, like, look at this. So this is Az is discussing the reveal for the behind the scenes footage, and it, like, you're just blown away because this is all real. Let me get to this. This is the part that made me giggle, and it made him giggle too. The water, like, it's real water, guys. They were like, that's not from a fog machine. That's the smelting smoke or steam. Like, that's from the metal being cooled. Look at Az's face. That was my face. Like, this, like, you're telling me that you put all of this effort and all of this care and all, like, look at this. This is from the behind the scenes footage. Look at how great this looks.
Got all the letters
behind
there
the scenes. And, like,
I wonder how many times they actually did it.
Right? So, like, why didn't we get something like this? I have no idea.
Yeah. I'll give them credit for the effort, though. Even though the intro or the teaser, whatever have you, ended up looking a bit weird. The effort behind it is still, it's not bad,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my fear. If they go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to read one of the guys in the chat. Raj Williams says the quality of the behind the scenes footage is better than the actual teaser trailer.
Yeah, it is.
I completely agree. And that's the thing. I mentioned this on Twitter, but, like, the fact that they think that putting in that effort to smelt this title and to, like, forge it, I know that's what they were going for. The idea that they think that is the big deal, that is putting in effort, because it is putting in effort, because you need to get a master metalsmith, you need to get a master woodsman, you need to have the camera crew and all of that stuff. But if they're going to put in that effort and they're going to say that it was that much effort and that they want to think that this is such a big and huge deal that they did this, it makes me terrified for the effort that they put into the rest of the film and how it's going to come across aesthetically, because I don't know what they were shooting for aesthetically, but it did not come across in the final product, in my personal opinion, because this does not look real.
You know what? The bad sign is though that all these the classical Tolkien artists and the Tolkien scholars and stuff, they left almost immediately.
Yeah,
Which
they
doesn't
left within
bode.
like
Yeah,
the first 6 months of production. I think it was
that's a
Gary
huge
reported
warning.
on that.
yeah,
Huge warning sign.
Tom Shippey, who is
Yeah.
like the premier Tolkien scholar, he left within a year. He signed a contract with Amazon. He was on set for a while, and then he was not on set, and he was not allowed to comment on why he wasn't on set. But
He's
the
in
fact
there.
that you
He's in that first trailer they put out too, announcing
Yep.
the series, or whatever. Thought it was going to be Second Age. His name is
Mhm.
prominent.
Yep. So
Imagine being paid though to be a Tolkien expert. Has to be the best job ever. All you have to do is read Tolkien.
Yeah. Yep. And the letters to him, if they're still available.
I think Teresa has a book with the letters. I think she does short videos sometimes, reading letters.
I think she does too. But I can't say for sure. But it's like part of me wants to be excited that this was practical effects. The rest of me is saying if they made practical effects look like this and they put in all of that effort just to make it look this way, I'm nervous for the aesthetic because the aesthetic of Wheel of Time was terrible. I don't care what way you slice it, dice it, or put it in a bow. The aesthetic for Wheel of Time was terrible. And now we've got this going on. You had cast members that left because they didn't agree with the direction of their character. You had cast members that aren't allowed to comment on it, but kind of gave that same sort of like yeesh look that we got from Danny, Amelia Clark, when we got to the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Like,
you got it from Anthony Daniels as well for the Star Wars Episode 9.
yeah, like there's all of these red flags popping off, and with the absolute slaughtering that has been going on with our franchises lately, it's just
Yeah,
like you can't. It's so I want so badly to be optimistic, but the fact that Bezos, that picture comes across like him treating Lord of the Rings as something to be owned and something for him, and then he's just gifting us this. He's being generous in giving this to us. This isn't something he wanted to do for passion. This was ego. This was something to, another notch on his belt. Like, I do not have high hopes because I've seen what Amazon has done with previously beautifully written and already established beautifully written IPs with previously established massive fan bases already in place, and they've completely crapped on it.
Yeah, I mean, the Lenny Henry guy made it very clear what they're doing with the show when he was talking about the Hobbits for like he did an interview over in the UK. He said that the Hobbits are going to be around, which they are not around in the Second Age. Obviously, he's talking about the Harfoots, which all Hobbits are Harfoots. Tolkien makes that clear in the books. So, and then he's saying that they're all like multicultural and they're a multicultural tribe of hobbits, which is just utterly ridiculous. There's only 3 types of there's hobbits, but Harfoots are hobbits, and there's 2 other types of hobbits. Their names escape me right now, but Bilbo is descended from one of the other types of hobbits, but he's also but the Harfoots are the most common type of hobbits. But Lenny Henry made it very clear that they're taking huge what's the word I'm looking for, liberties with Tolkien's work.
Or we can just go off of what Esquire said, and
they're
Amazon's
not
Lord of the
hobbits,
Rings show will majorly break from Tolkien's canon. So, like, you've got, I mean, this is from November of 2021, and it's referencing when the map came out and it had the huge plot clue of everything. but everybody thought that this was going to be way more in-depth Second Age. Like, but I can't honestly say anymore what this is going to be based on that official press release, because they're skipping so much. They're all over the place, and they're landing just the fact that they're already going to bring up the last alliance of elves and men is just mind-blowing. Like,
Well,
I have no idea how they're going to stitch this together.
I have a question for both of you. Just to flip it a bit, what do you want to see in this show? Is there any kind of event or something like that you really want to see on screen?
I know what I want to see. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff I'd be interested in seeing. I am interested in seeing the downfall of Numenor, Sauron manipulating Ar-Pharazôn, getting him to secretly worship what's the guy's name? He's got like multiple names. The Dark Lord. In secret, and then publicly, and then eventually he begins publicly worshiping him, and you have all of the Numenorians worshiping them as well. And it's after Sauron is like he accepts being a hostage, but he's able to like destroy Numenor from within. But then you also have Isildur and his father, and them actually like trying to warn against Sauron, and then Ar-Pharazôn eventually decides to challenge God and go off into the west with his ships, where they're absolutely destroyed. I think that's something I'm actually like would love to see in live action. Would be just really interesting. That pride that leads to that kind of decision, that you think that you are a god and that you can challenge God, is just would be really interesting to see. And then I am also interested in seeing all the battles with the last alliance of elves and men. I think we saw a little bit of it obviously in Jackson's trilogy, especially in the extended edition stuff. But I would be interested in seeing, like, because there's so much that leads up to that. Sauron leading his forces, like there's so many, like, because it's a war. It's just, you have like the last battle, but that's a battle that ends the war. They siege Mordor for multiple years, and just seeing how that plays out, and that's stuff that I'd be interested in. And then there's also the torture of how is the one elf that Sauron actually has, but he doesn't know who he is. And he's attacked by the werewolf in the dungeon, and he eventually breaks free to save his friend and kills the werewolf, but he eventually like succumbs to his wounds. I'm blanking on his name right now, but that's like a really great story too. So there's a couple of things that I'm actually really interested in seeing that Tolkien had written in the Silmarillion.
Yeah, there's the thing about the Silmarillion is where the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit had character interaction and dialogue and all of, like, it was very easy. I don't say easy, but it was all there for you to put into a screenplay, to transfer to film. The Silmarillion is not like that. It's more like the Book of Numbers or the Book of Deuteronomy, if we're going to be honest.
You absolutely need to fill in a lot of gaps with the Silmarillion stuff.
Yeah. So
if you want to put it on screen.
And the idea that these people that couldn't even sit when they have Wheel of Time, and here's the other thing, I've seen what happens when these people are trying, like, the creative powers that be at Amazon, when Amazon is the creative engine behind it, and they're trying to condense timelines, or they're trying to have because season 3 is 3 books, but it's not all 3 books in like a linear fashion. They take stuff from book 3 and book 2 and book 1, and they sort of smash it together, and they mess with so much stuff. And first of all, it completely undermines the importance and necessity and power of the Dragon Reborn, but on top of it, it gives you no sense of just how long this journey is. And this has been my gripe since day one. When it comes to, there's not much I will rag on when it comes to the Lord of the Rings trilogy films, Peter Jackson's films. But I don't think people realize, if you've not read the books, you do not realize that Frodo sat in the Shire for 2 decades before Gandalf came back. You don't realize that Gandalf and Aragorn...
Frodo 50.
Yeah, Frodo was 50. Like, the fact that Aragorn and Gandalf rode around for more than a decade looking for Gollum. They were trying to find him. It wasn't like, when you watch the films, I mean, I am nowhere, I'm not even going to pretend to have the talent that Peter Jackson does, and I'm not saying that I could have done a better job. But the thing that I gripe on is because they had to condense it down so much. I mean, it wouldn't have been hard to like show that it snowed, and like there's different ways to show passages of time, but we didn't get that. We didn't do that. We didn't feel that.
They could have had Galadriel narrated it.
Something, anything. I'm not sure. I don't have the creative answer to that. I know that it's possible though, but it felt like Gandalf left. It was 2 weeks to get to the White Tower and go to the library and do some research. He looked for Gollum for a little bit. Gollum was already captured, and then he's back with a
hell of a horse,
right? Like, and he's back within a month to the Shire.
Have you guys seen The Hunt for Gollum? It's a fan movie.
I've not.
I have not.
They got to use leftover footage from the movies.
Oh, that's awesome.
For the nature shots and stuff. And they did another one about Aragorn's dad. So there's 2 fan films out there, and they're actually really good. They were made with a lot of love, and they're on YouTube. You can watch them for free.
I'll have to look those up.
Definitely gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's gonna give you a little bit of a Tolkien fix, I guess.
Yeah, I am so I see that Keck44 here is saying Beren and Luthien battled Sauron and werewolf guys. I'm also interested in a lot of that stuff too that you don't actually see in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. The fantasy creatures that he includes, and how Sauron is almost like a vampire lord at one point, and you have the werewolves and stuff like that, these traditional supernatural beings. So I again, just going back to that, I like a lot of that stuff, so that's something that I'm interested in as well.
I guess also Glorfindel fighting the Balrog.
Yeah,
and it would be interesting to see how each of the ring wraiths became ring wraiths. What made them fall? Because I've always been a fan of the ring wraiths, and having Glorfindel and the Witch King has a face-off, I believe, and it's when Glorfindel predicts that you will be killed by no man or something, right?
Yeah, you'll be killed by no man, and no living man. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why the Witch King wiped out all the gnomes, because he was afraid of being killed by gnome man. So he wiped them out.
You're terrible. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
It was it was 14 years looking for Gollum and another 4 for information about the ring and Sauron. And it really does feel like this ring, because that's the part that gets me in this story, is it was lost to all knowledge and everything. And in the movies, it feels like Gandalf showed up and the librarian just happened to know the exact scroll and got it to him, and he found it within a day. You know what I mean? But there was actually years of research and searching and seeking, and he had Aragorn's help and the elves, and he was doing all of this stuff. Meanwhile, you've got Frodo chilling in his little hobbit hole, smoking his pipe and just living his life.
You know what he could have done? Just put the ring in a pouch, taking it to Elrond and going, "Hey, is this the ring?" And then
no, Gandalf can't touch the ring. Stop it.
No, he can put it in a pouch.
No, how's he going to pick it up?
He's talking about the envelope that he did in the movies.
I know he's talking about the I know.
Yeah, just
I know.
show it to Elrond. Hey, is this the ring?
No, because you wanted to confirm, and like why would you want to let anybody else know that you might possibly have this one ring of
Oh,
power if it's not really?
Elrond would recognize it.
Shush.
I think it looks like a normal ring
Shush.
in the film, right?
It
They
does look
explain that
like a
away.
normal ring, and it's
You have to
like
put it in
the
the fire
fire
or
reveal.
whatever.
But that's how Gandalf. That's why Gandalf had to go do research and that's why that scroll was so important, because it reveals its secrets. Because now it just looks like a normal golden ring. It was, but I'm just. That would be cool to see the fall of Morgoth.
I want to see Morgoth. Period.
I'm just
That's a
so
beast of a man.
Sure.
That's heavy metal, Morgoth.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm really trying to positive is not the right word. I'm not trying to look, guys. Here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you can't watch this show. If you want to watch this show, by all means, go for it. But you guys have to understand that Lord of the Rings means something to me that other fantasy series don't. And this is what made me fall in love with fantasy. This is a big part of why I love the stuff that I love and why I have the hobbies that I do. And it's a big part of just really honestly, because escapism is a part of you. Where you choose to escape to is a big part of who you are. And so this is a big part of me. This was like Lord of the Rings was huge for me as a child. And so the other thing that I'm going to point out, and I pointed this out when we did our covers stream. Do you notice how small the Lord of the Rings is? But then how big the name of the show is? Like, they are,
Well,
if they could have gotten away with this just being the Rings of Power, they would have. Because
but you know what? I agree with that, because this show is called The Rings of Power.
Yes.
So that should be at the forefront.
But so then why don't you just take the Lord of the Rings away? Why have it at all?
Because they can't, because it's marketing.
That's my point. Like, this isn't a passion project. This is a cash. This is a greed thing, and I'm just all of these little signals that I've seen over the course of the past. Since I'm not trying to find straw men, and I'm not trying to see stuff that isn't there. They are blatantly telling us that this is not going to follow Tolkien's vision. That this is going to subvert expectations. That when you have Tolkien scholars who leave because of creative differences, like, it's just, if that's not the biggest red flag in the world, I don't know what is. I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I know what you're getting at, because this is something you care a lot about, and when I watched the Disney Star Wars trilogy, and I didn't like it and all that, but once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So,
which is why I've not seen it.
Yeah. So whenever I'm reading a Star Wars book or watching the old trilogy again, and I see Luke, I can't unsee Luke sucking on that tit, on that,
I use that image all the time of like the blue stuff, like just dripping down his beard, and just looks just shriveled and just terrible. Because
Luke's dying like a hobo,
Yeah.
It's just it's still there. So even though I can differentiate the Lucasfilm era of Star Wars from the Disney stuff, you can't wipe the image away.
Agreed.
So even if you completely put it to the side, it's still there, and it's kind of like a little bit of an infection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that pebble in your shoe when you're walking and you don't have time to stop and take it out. Like, you're trying to ignore it and you're trying to enjoy your walk and stuff, but you just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I was gonna make like a Catholic point that I don't know if I want to. I'm probably not going to go there where my original thoughts were, but all sins are public sins, and they affect they affect everything around you. So my original point was about like pornography. Once you see it, you can't see it, and the devil's going to use that to tempt you, even if you stop doing it. Those images are still in your brain.
So he's to blame.
The devil? Yeah.
Now I know. So that's what caused it. Okay.
All of it. It's always but it's like it's just we've arrived to a point where it feels like we only exist. It's like we simply exist to be money. Like they literally just want to reach into our pockets, take our money, and walk. Like it's not a passion project. It's not because you love it. It's not because you want to share something you love. And whether it's the Disney trilogy or it's Amazon's Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings or whatever it is, so much can be done right by fantasy, especially when you have the source material right there. And this is just I am not optimistic, guys. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. There's no passion. There's no true care.
Respect.
Because there's no exactly. There is nothing there to give me hope. And Lord of the Rings is literally about hope and overcoming darkness.
Are there even any famous names in this show, or is it just unknowns?
There's
there's
a couple.
The movies had big names.
Well, that was Orlando Bloom first. Yeah,
but they were perfectly cast, most of them, and
yes, they were
the inexperienced ones were, put in with masters of their craft.
Yeah, and it showed, and that care came through, and so I'm beyond. I am beyond hope. Like, there's just with everything that we've seen, and the fact that Bezos is going to treat this like a trophy on his wall, and somehow, because even when you hear Game of Thrones, you still think of you still think of George R.R. Martin. Like you're still like, all right, it's Game of Thrones is Martin. Lord of the Rings will always be Tolkien, but it's like Bezos is trying very hard to insert himself into the Lord of the Rings, because he was not, as far as I know, there's no picture of him that exists with anything regarding Wheel of Time like that, which is also a huge fantasy project. And Amazon had the potential to really launch Wheel of Time into the stratosphere to other people that may have not been familiar with it, because again, it is not as big as Lord of the Rings. No, so they had the potential for.
The problem is the stupidity of the casual audience, really, because they just consume.
I want to push back on that a little bit, because I looked at the numbers. You look at the numbers for the Wheel of Time that we're getting from Nielsen, and I know seen people mocking because they use minutes instead of hours or whatever to report. But if you look at the first couple of weeks, the numbers were pretty high, but it's gone consistently down by huge chunks every single week. The last reported that we got was, I think, the 12th of December, because Nielsen takes a while to report their numbers, collecting all the data and stuff. But the 12th had a almost 50 million minute drop compared to the 5th. So people are tuning out of this stuff. That's not to say that there aren't people who just consume and will just gobble up what's given to them, or they like. I almost suspect that some people might just have it play, they get up and walk away, and it's still playing. They're not even watching it.
I think that happens a lot
because they just gotten bored.
It's sad though, because I'm a huge fan of George Martin, but he hasn't finished, so his work doesn't count yet.
And he's never going to finish.
I have hope, because I'm a Hobbit.
I have absolutely zero hope that if he really wanted to finish, he wouldn't be taking on 20 other different projects
No,
that
I know.
are unrelated to him finishing his work.
But
Yeah,
George
I
Martin
think-
aside, though, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time is probably the closest anyone has gotten to Tolkien.
Yeah,
especially
I
when it
agree.
comes to world building. I would agree with that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
I mean,
Amazon had the opportunity to have two epic, incredible fantasy series that had built-in fan bases, and they could have brought millions or even billions more to them, and they would have just seen it go up, 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 and people would have it would have been incredible. But
This guy's world building is pretty good too. Steven Erickson.
I have
yes,
I
I've got that book.
I have yards of his books. I've read the first one, and that was pardon my English, it was a bitch to get through.
Yeah, the first one is tough.
So much info dumping. Half the time I didn't even know who
but
was
it's good.
Yeah,
but I am now.
Once you get past that, you're pretty. It's pretty good though.
Yeah.
The first one is tough. I agree. The first one is a slog.
Yes. I am not going to keep anybody any longer. I think we've pretty well hit this left, right, and center. I still maintain that you should probably put your Lord of the Rings series out on a happier day, like the Professor's birthday or Frodo and Bilbo's birthday, especially if you're going to shove hobbits into the Second Age. I would not launch my Lord of the Rings series on the day that its creator died. That just seems extremely disrespectful to me.
Bad luck.
I understand where you're coming from there, but I will put an optimistic spin on that. That's the day he went to heaven. So.
True. That is an optimistic spin. I doubt that Amazon cared about that. It also makes me wonder if Amazon even realizes what the 2nd is or what the 22nd is of September. But I just want to say thank you to the chat. You guys were amazing. I had like 35 people in here at one time, which is insane, and I truly appreciate and love every single one of you. You guys are amazing. I didn't want to make this super long because, again, it's only a 1-minute title reveal, and I know that everybody's got stuff to do. So I appreciate every single one of you showing up. I promise I've got loads more Lord of the Rings stuff coming, and now I'm going to have a whole bunch more Wheel of Time stuff coming out too, because it's
Did you finish it?
Like I did. Like I've watched all of it, and I'm working on my episode reviews, but like having to rewatch those episodes actually like pains my soul because it's just so bad. But I've got
Loki.
Oh God,
episodes are so
God bless you for that. I do not doubt. But all right, Mr. John F. Trent, why don't you let people know where they can find you, read you, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounding Into Comics. So you can find us. You can find my written work at boundingintocomics.com. We have a YouTube channel, Bounding Into Comics. So I try and put up a video a day during the week. Obviously, I don't really work on the weekends, but I do put them up during the week. And we do a live stream Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern called the Black Pill Stream. So that's today. That's in 3 hours. So we run from 9 to 12. Usually, sometimes we go to 1 if the conversation is just really moving along. But that's pretty much where you can find me. I run the Twitter account, so I run all of our social media accounts. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can just message us through social media. I do have my own personal Twitter, which is just at JF Trent. So you can follow me there, but I don't really post a lot on my personal. It's a lot of Catholic stuff. So if you're
and I am okay
wanting
with it.
to be inspired, you can get some inspiration.
I'm an atheist, and I'm okay with it.
It's good. There you go. It's good stuff.
We'll convert you. We'll convert you eventually.
We'll convert you. Go ahead, Stig. Where can we find you?
Let's see. Outros. Yeah, I really like that. But in 1 hour and 45, I'll be on with Jade Shadow for the Cringe Factory, where we talk about the top 4 cringiest things that has happened in the last week. And narrowing it down is hard these days because there's a lot of cringe. Other than that, I'm on with Miss Martin Muses on Saturdays for the Lord of the Rings in-depth book talk. And sometimes I'm on this channel when you and I are talking about 80s stuff.
Yeah,
which
lots of
we
stuff.
started.
80s.
We started a
yeah,
new
double
show.
features. Yes.
Yeah, the
Blockbuster Archives.
Blockbuster Archives.
First episode was this past Monday, so it was good stuff.
It was fun, and now I have to watch Das Boot and
Yes.
Dragon Slayer for the next one.
Dragon Slayer. Yep.
And I'm
Looking
looking
forward to it.
to both. So
I
that's gonna
am
be
as
great.
well. It's going to be a blast. So, chat, once again, you all are the champions. I appreciate every single one of you. You are amazing and incredible. Thank you for stopping by. You guys know where to find me. You can find me over on the Twitter as well. I mod for a bunch of channels. So if I snipe you usually I snipe for 3 reasons: spamming the chat, death threats, and of course the bots. So I'm usually pretty fair when I snipe you, but if I snipe you, just know that it is with justice in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know
usually
how
do
you guys
2 of those. I usually get to do 2 of those before she kicks me out.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? But everybody, you guys, truly, I appreciate you. I've got my nostalgia stream tomorrow where we're going over Mythica 3. So be there for that. There's going to be lots of other stuff going on. Like John just said, he's got a stream tonight. Stig's got a stream tonight over on Mara Jade's channel. You go check her out. I love every single one of you in the chat. Real quick, Raj Williams did donate $5 Canadian. Thank you so much, Raj. Says, what have they done to our beloved Lord of the Rings? Is it now Game of Thrones rings? Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like that's what they're shoving it towards. So I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys being here. This means the world to me. Fantasy is truly a passion of mine. The genre in general is my favorite by far. And like I said, Lord of the Rings holds a really special place for me. So this is going to be something that I'm going to be covering a lot of. There will be other stuff, but definitely make sure you keep an eye out for this because there's a lot going to be happening. And if you guys thought that this was interesting or up your alley, I can't wait for you guys to see what Gary has been working on from Nerdrotic because he's got something huge coming down the pipe. So everybody just take care. Have a great night. God bless, and remember, not all that glitters is gold.